So as I've been making these videos and I get deeper and deeper into playing around with AnyRail, I find things that are interesting, and I really would have liked to included some of this into the other videos, but it just would have made them too long. So I decided to make this video and show you some things that I've learned about tracks, lines, surfaces, and other things, and how they work and how they interact. This video doesn't fit into the numbering scheme, but a lot of what I'm going to show you here would actually make some of the things I showed you in some of the other videos a little more clear, and maybe make some operations a little more easy. So I would like to point out that on the day that I'm recording this, the temperature here in the San Francisco Bay Area is roughly equivalent to the surface temperature of the planet Venus. So if you hear a bunch of fans roaring in the background, that's because I have several of them going, trying to keep my cats and dogs from melting into tired little puddles of fur and hair. So let's get started here. We're going to start with track. I'm going to bring in a piece of track. And I've shown you quite a few things that you can do with track. I've shown you how to go and get the endpoint, and you can look at the angle. And you can look at the XY coordinates. I've shown you how you can grab the endpoint using shift and stretch it. But let's see what happens when we select the track. So then we get the Tools, Track menu right here. And a lot of this we have already gone over: the delete, the glue, the flip. We didn't talk about elevate. That's if you're using a 3D, and I'm not really going to get into the 3D. We do have layer here. And right now, it shows that we're working on layer 1. Now, if I want this track to be on a different layer, and it's not selected, you don't see that little dialog box up there, but you can tell we're working on layer 1. So I come over here and I click on it. And now I get this dialog box. And say I want this piece of track on layer 2. And this could be anything in your drawing. It could be track, it could be a building, it could be a line, it could be anything. You come up here, you click on it first, you come up here, you do the drop down, and you say, oh, I want this guy to be on layer 2. He's now on layer 2. I can turn layer 2 off, and it goes away. Let's turn layer 2 back on. Down below, you'll notice next to the description, it says layer 2. It also says layer 1. That first place where it says layer 1, that's the active layer. Where it says layer 2, that's associated with the item that you've selected, and that means this piece of track is on layer 2. Next we get to these 4 buttons here. And let's bring in another piece of track, and we're going to rotate this piece of track. And we're going to put him here. And now you'll notice that our new piece of track is on top of this piece of track. Now let's say we want it to be the other way. I can take this guy, and I can say send backwards. And that puts him 1 position behind. Now, if I had multiple items here, I could send it all the way to the back. That would mean everything else that I had here would be on top of this piece of track. Or I can bring it to the front, and that means it's not going to be on top of everything else. Or I can bring it forward, and that would mean it would just be on top of whatever the next item down is. Conversely, I can do this. I could select this guy, and I can say, bring to front, and now he's on top of the other one. So that's what these 4 buttons here mean. Let's get rid of that. Go back. These 4 buttons here select how your track looks. Right now it says standard, so this is the standard view of your track. Hidden doesn't actually hide the track. But what it does is it puts in those little white squares, and that means that track is hidden. It could be like in a tunnel, or it could be staging track, something like that. Embankment makes it look like a centipede with a lot of legs on either side, but that just means that it's an embankment. And if the last one is bridge, if you look at it, it now looks like a bridge, and that will stretch with the track. I can make that bridge as long as I want. Let's go back to standard. Disconnect we've already looked at. Lock height track, that's pretty obvious. Set height, that's pretty obvious. We've gone over straight curve and easement and all these others. Now, let's look at the endpoint. So we're going to zoom in on our endpoint, and we're going to click it. He says, and let's go back. This brings up another dialog box. We can lock that height. We can set that height just for that end. We can create a slope if we want to. We've gone over that in another video. The XY is telling us where that point is in our X and our Y coordinates. And it's telling us the angle, when we know that. Okay, we've got two here, move endpoint and move track. Now, when we have move endpoint selected, I can come in here and I can type coordinates. Hit enter. And you'll notice it moved the endpoint. It kept this endpoint in the same place, and now it made the track look like that. So let's undo that. We got to select our endpoint again. Okay, let's say we want to move this whole piece of track. We don't want it at 24 inches in and 12 inches down. We want it 36 inches in and 36 inches down. So we want it to go somewhere right about there. And we want the whole piece of track to move, not just that endpoint. We come over here and we hit move track. And we'll type in 36, 36, hit enter. And you'll notice it shifted the whole track down to the coordinates that we wanted. So if you want to place a piece of track accurately in your drawing, that's the way to do it. Now I could come over here and I could do the same thing for this endpoint. I could change this endpoint and I could make this endpoint say move up. And we're still moving the track, and it moved the entire piece of track. So that's the difference between move endpoint and move track. Okay, let's make our piece of track go away. Now let's go to insert. And let's start with line. I'm going to click on line. I'm going to come down here, and we're going to put it right about there, which is 2 feet down, 2 feet in. And we're going to make a line. Now we have our line. One thing that'd be really nice would be if I could specify the length of this line somewhere, but I haven't figured out how I can do that. So if we highlight our line, we get the Tools Lines menu. I can delete it. Let's see if we can glue it. Yes, we can. Let's unglue it. We can rotate it, we can flip it, we can elevate it. And this is for the 3D, and I'm not going to get into that. And again, if we want to change the layer, I can come up here and I can say, put it on layer 2. And my line is now on layer 2. If you look down below, it says layer 2. Also, the send to back, send backward, all these buttons, they work with lines as well. Line width, I can come in, I can change the line width. I could make my line a 1/2 inch wide if I wanted to. Again, height, I'm not going to go over that because it's 3D. Line color, come in here, I can select my line color from this palette, or I can go to more colors and select it from that palette. Like that. This is the transparency slider, and when it's at the minus, your line is fully visible. As I slide it this way, your line is going to get dimmer and dimmer. As you can see, we can now see the grid through it. Bring that back up to full transparency. Go make another line. Try that again. Make another line. All right. I'm going to select this line. Now we have the option of round corners or curved corners. If I go round corners, it makes it look like that. It just sort of fills it in between the angles. If I go curved corners, it looks like that. And I can move these around and change that as I like. I can go back to normal. And now it looks like that again. Next item is dashed. So let's go back to this guy. And let's say we want that to be a dashed line. So now we have a dashed line here. We can change the spaces between those dashed lines. So let's take this one and let's make that 1 inch. And now our line looks like that. And I can do the same with dash B. I can make it one. And now it looks like that. Let's put our line back to the way it was. And that's all the stuff you can do by just selecting the line like that. You can save it as an object. I'm not going to get into that. I've never saved anything as an object. Maybe later on I'll do a video when I figure it out. But for right now, this is what you can do under the Tools Lines menu. But let's go over here and let's select the end. Now, just like our track, we have the X, Y coordinates, and we can do it as a move a point or move a line. So if I didn't want this line here, I wanted to move the whole line, just like track. I'd select move line, I'd put in my new XY coordinates, and it would move the line to that precise location. Delete and add point. Notice it just adds a point every time I do that. Let's put our line back, go back to this endpoint. Now it brings up, what do I want my line to look like? And I've got a couple choices here. So I can have a line like we have now. I can put an arrow on it. I can put a different kind of arrow. Make a circle, a square, whatever I want. So I want an arrow on both sides. I'd do that. I'd come over here, I'd select this, and I'd do that. Now I got a nice line with arrows on either end. And this little box here sets the size of your arrow or the circle or the box. So right now I can set this to 2, hit enter, and now my arrow just got bigger. So that's some of the cool stuff you can do with lines. And remember, on rotate, I can't come up here and select this endpoint and rotate. I have to come over here, I have to select the line. I can either rotate this way, or I can grab my rotate pop-up box that way. All right, let's get rid of lines. Back to insert. We're going to add a surface. When you add a surface, you just kind of like drawing a line, but you'll see it starts to fill in like that. Well, let's put in several points. Let's make it look like that. Right click to stop drawing. Now, when you look at it like this, nothing up here applies to it. I could add another surface or I could add a line. If you want to modify this, you have to select it like that. Now we get the Tools, Surfaces menu bar. And again, I can delete it. I can glue it. See that? It's glued. That turned red. And I got a little glue pot down there. Let's unglue it. I can rotate it. I can flip it. I can elevate it, which we aren't going to go over. I can change what layer it's on. And again, I can send it backwards or I can bring it forwards. I can change the line width. You'll notice my border line got bigger. I can change the line color. I now have a red border. I can change the fill color. And I can adjust the transparency. And that adjusts the transparency of the fill. Let's change the outline. Just the fill. Let's go back to 1. Tabletop and background. I'm not quite sure what background does. If you're going to look at 3D, you need to have tabletop turned on. Because if I go up here to 3D, there's my tabletop. You don't see that surface we put in. Go back to 2D, select it. If I put it on the tabletop and I go to 3D, there it is. And again, I can do round corners. I can do curved corners or normal corners. Rounded points. Watch the end here when I do this. You'll notice it just sort of fills in the point. Height, again, has to do with the 3D height contour. Not going to go over that. Objects. Load image. I can load an image into this outline. Let's see if we can find a nice image somewhere. Select the image, hit open, wait. And there's my image inside my surface. Now I can take that image and I can make it dim like that with the transparency slider. I can remove the image. I can adjust the image's width and height. And I go over this in the video where I show you how to put the track plan into your room. But I'll show you just real fast here. I can change the width. We got 59 3/4. I can change the width to say 36. And you'll notice what it did. And I could change this to say 56. And it changes just the image. That's not affecting your surface. That's pretty close to where we were. Now I can come up here and I can say maintain aspect ratio. So now if I adjust this, let's take this down to 36, it changes both the width and the height to maintain the aspect ratio of your picture. And if I say adjust outline, it's going to adjust my surface to fit my picture. So that's a surface and what you can do with a surface. And we're not done yet. Let's go to an endpoint. Same thing here. I've got the XY, each point I click on, I get the XY of that point, and I can either move that point or move the surface. I can change the corners between the points. So it's going to look at these points here, and it's going to say, oh, I want to make that round between there and there. Or I can make it curved. I can come up here. Let's go to here. I can do that. Or I can do that. So you can shape it different ways depending on what you select up here. And you can add points and you can delete points. So you can add more points in. I can right click. I can say add point. So now I got another point here. And I can pull that out. And I can keep doing that until I get the shape that I want. Okay, surfaces. Rectangle, pretty much the same thing, but the thing you got to remember about rectangles is you have to set the width and the height first. If I select on this and I come over here and I click, I'm going to get a 12 by 12 rectangle. Well, I didn't want a 12 by 12. I wanted a 12 by 24. Now I come over, I select that, and there it is. And just like the surface, you can do all of this to your rectangle. Load it. You can put an image in it. You can do all that. And when you put an image in, that additional dialogue is going to show up over here, and you can play around with the image. And just like everything else, I can select a point. It tells me where that point is. I can move that point or move the surface, round corner, curved corners, the whole shebang. It's right there. Let's get rid of that. Circle. And again, you have to set the radius before you put the circle in. So if I click it now, I've got a 4-inch radius circle. It means it's going to take up 8 inches there. And again, I can move a point, move the surface, position that point anywhere I want. And one of the fun things is I can come up here and I can play with that. So I can change the corners if I want. I can come down here, say I want a curved corner there, and you'll notice how it starts distorting the image. So pretty much for lines, surfaces, rectangles, and circles, you get the same dialog boxes when you click either on the outline or on a point. Add ruler, I showed you in another video. Let's get rid of this guy. Go to insert. Let's go to text. Now I'll just come up here, click there. It gives me a text box. Type in my text, hit enter. There's my text. Now I can come up here, select it. I can grab the outline I can move my text around like that. I can rotate it this way using that, or up here. I can make my text horizontal or vertical. And each time I click the vertical, you'll notice it flips 180 degrees. I can make my text go upside down by hitting horizontal. I can change the font on the fly. I can just come up here and I can say I want what looks good. Anita semi-square. Okay. And I can change the size on the fly too. I can make it 120. I can position my text. I can move it over. You notice I typed in 24 and it's aligning to the left side of the text box. If I put in 12, so a nice round number, it aligned to the bottom corner. So it aligns to this side and the bottom. If I want to edit text, I can come here and select edit text, or I can come up here and select edit text. Now I get that big box again. And I can change it. Hit enter. Now I have my new text. Oh, and I can change the color. I can make it whatever color I want. And I can change the layer, just like all the other items. All right, let's get rid of our text. And let's go to Object Libraries. Let's go to Walders. Let's add a structure. Yeah, it looks good. Now, to move a structure, I just can grab it and drag it around like that. I don't think we need that. Don't think we need that. So, when the structure comes in, it looks like it's coming into the upper left corner, because this is 12 inches down, this is 24 inches in. And I've got the usual gang of suspects up here on things that I can do to it. And label. Let's try label. Didn't do anything. So I guess that means that if I have several structures in, I can come up, select it, it'll come up and tell me what that is. So if I have an odd name for this place, I can put in an odd name. Every time I click on it, it's going to show me that name. Now apparently you cannot place one structure over another structure. At least it doesn't look like it to me. If I come up and I hit bring forward, it doesn't work. Let's try this. Let's send it back. Nope. You can't do that with a structure. So you can't take one structure, place it over another structure. It's going to hide it. And it looks like whatever structure came in first is the one that's going to be dominant. Yep. This one will now hide behind that one. And this one hides behind that one because they came in the order 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have learned about Track's line surfaces and everything up to this point. And of course, the answer to everything is 42. So I hope this video helps explain a few things that I did not go over in the others, and we'll see what else I can come up with to talk about in the future.